Welcome to True Democrats. This is the show where we try to point the Democratic candidates into the right direction, try to light a little fire under them, try to get that competition, that fighting spirit, spark that fighting spirit, anything to try to win elections. Obviously, you can tell that I failed this year because we're still struggling to get the Senate. We lost members of the House caucus, so the Republicans gained. We did win in the White House. Joe Biden won with the greatest amount of votes since FDR during the Great Depression, which is an accomplishment considering most Americans don't vote these days, and it gets less and less, except this was a pinnacle of election seasons, a lot of craziness going on, and it continues. As you can probably see if you're watching this, the Christmas decorations have gone up. I started to notice I was falling behind. Everybody must have, as soon as November hit, everybody started putting up their Christmas decorations. I thought it was supposed to go in the weekend after Thanksgiving, but I had to jump onto the bandwagon and put our decorations up. But it's less of a festive mood than usual because the political ring is still open. The battle hasn't even heated up. It's already on 700 Fahrenheit or whatever the burning temperature is. It's hot down in Georgia, where 2 Senate seats are up for grabs in a runoff in January 5th. And these 2 Senate seats are going to determine Joe Biden's agenda for the next at least 2 years. And, of course, what direction this country takes as soon as he takes office. We have 2 incumbent Republican senators down in Georgia, none of which retained 50% of the Georgia vote, so both of them are up for grabs in January. And Senator Perdue is battling challenger Jon Ossoff, and then Senator Loeffler is up against the Reverend Warnock. And the same pattern is again happening. Nothing has changed as far as the strategy to campaign, as far as I can see, and I'll take a closer look this weekend. But the pattern has not changed. Although I'm happy with Jon Ossoff, where in the debates he called Senator Perdue a crook, which he is, taking his inside information and monetizing that with his stock portfolio. And of course, because of that, Senator Perdue does not want to debate Jon Ossoff again and won't debate him even now. The other challenge is Reverend Warnock, who is taking the high road, which of course every Democrat's doing because, I mean, you can't, the Republicans have nothing to run on. So of course they have to call names, lie, cheat, steal, do what they can. But the big mistake that the Democrats are making, and the fact that they don't think about, is that when you battle and call names to the Republicans, you have the facts and history on your side. Case in point, these 2 senators who are both accused of stock manipulation, inside information, trading and selling stock when they know these companies are going to profit. So calling them a crook, as Jon Ossoff did, is certainly fair play. And but I have a feeling that the Reverend Warnock is taking too much of the upper road, trying to, as they say, stay out of the fray. But in politics these days, you got to get into the fray and you got to go toe-to-toe. And Reverend Warnock and the Democratic candidates have the ammunition. They have the facts. They have the truth on their side. You have to use it, and you have to remind the people of Georgia just exactly what this Republican Party has done to them, specifically Senator Perdue, Senator Loeffler. Now, just think about this at a moment now. I guess let's put this in context. Now, both the Republican incumbents had a rally, I guess, last week or so with a guest appearance from Senator Tom Cotton, another Republican trying to go full right wing. And it's amazing. The Democrats have got to start. Aren't they tired of listening to Fox propaganda and all these candidates saying, oh, they're going to move us too far to the left, too liberal agenda. First of all, remind everybody, too far to the left and the liberal agenda got everybody Social Security and Medicare. Do they want to get rid of that? Do these conservative blue-collar workers want to get rid of that? The answer is no. But you got to remind what happens when the Democrats go too far to the left. You get benefits that help you survive crashes that occur when the Republicans are in charge. But what we got to start throwing back, what these candidates should start throwing back, is that we have gone too far to the right because we have economic crash. We have a pandemic that was allowed into this country and is killing over 250,000 of Americans in this country. You know, we've gone too far to the right. We have to start throwing the labels back. And it's not about getting into the fray. It's a fact that it's a fact that it's a fact. Now, I would ask the Reverend Warnock to take a look. Jamie Harrison wanted to do the same thing in South Carolina. And he was a nice guy, and he's going to talk about health care. And Lindsey Graham beat him handily. And Lindsey Graham and the rest of the Republicans are doing no favors to their constituents. So let's try to pinpoint, but let's go back to this Tom Cotton campaigning for both these Republican incumbents. And I believe what they said at this rally was that if the Democrats are elected, the fabric of this country is going to be ruined forever. Now, let's take that and let's use that against these Republicans. For one thing, the fabric of this country is based on honesty, is based on facts, it's based on sacrifice, and is based on helping other Americans. These two Republican senators are nothing of the kind. Case in point, the moment now, we have a pandemic and economic crisis in Georgia. And what are these two senators doing about it? Well, they've just been dismissed for Thanksgiving break. So they got another vacation. You know how many vacations they've had in the Senate since the last relief package expired in July? At least two. They spent their time in Congress, in the Senate, confirming a corporate lawyer to be a Supreme Court justice. So basically they did nothing, which is, in other words, they abandoned their constituents in Georgia in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of an economic crisis. And I don't hear any one of these Republicans screaming and yelling to the leadership of the Republican Party saying, we need to work on something to help my constituents. They threw the people of Georgia under the bus, and that's everybody. That's blue collar, that's liberal, that's conservative, that's non-voter, that's Christian, that's atheist. Everybody got thrown under the bus with these Republicans in the Senate. So the fabric, what's the fabric of our country? The fabric of our country is not robbing other Americans. And I think what's important also, before we even talk about these, if I was managing or if I was one of these Democratic candidates, you have to lump in this president. Now, all these Republicans are scared of this president, and he has a vice grip on their base. Their base are these scared white guy racists who feel that because they're white, everything they say is correct, when in fact, without even learning anything. So they think they're experts on everything, even though they couldn't get through high school. And because they've had this white power for so long, they feel they're losing it. So that's why these racists are voting lock, stock, everything for Donald Trump, and he holds a power over them. So, of course, these Republicans are scared they're going to lose that base, and that's their only base. Notice that the educated Americans don't vote for Republicans, and there's a reason for that. And I said this in the Maine election, and I'm not quite sure why nobody's doing it, but since they lumped themselves or jumped on the shirt tails of President Trump, you have to remind the people of Georgia who this President Trump is. He's a guy that created a Trump University for the sole purpose of ripping students off. They gave the students a worthless piece of paper that meant nothing but took their money. He created a military charity in which he spent all the money on himself. He doesn't pay his contractors. Remember that his brother's child was on life support, and the only thing paying for them was the inheritance from their father, of which Trump threatened to take this kid off of life support unless his sibling did what he wanted him to do. And of course, didn't pay his contractors, and no American bank would lend him money because they know he's a scammer. So first of all, explain to people who this guy is and why they're riding on his coattails. Well, for one thing, these two Republican senators are thieves and scammers and crooks. They did insider dealing stocks. That's already been proven. And the bottom line is, you're talking about the fabric of this country on honesty. These Republican senators are nothing but crooks and thieves stealing from this country. Case in point, again, the relief package that the Democrats fought so hard, Chuck Schumer fought so hard to get an oversight to where this money was being distributed, and still these Republicans got this money and got trillions of dollars that were supposed to go to these small businesses and redirected it to these corporations and to these millionaires and billionaires' pockets. Now, high theft of relief money has got to be the number one issue during this pandemic. So businesses are falling down. The Republican senators don't care. The hospitals are getting a tight squeezed, and the Republican senators don't care. What is the fabric of this country? The fabric of this country is sacrifice. You have to pay your taxes. You have to sacrifice so that our hospitals are secure, that our teachers are being paid, that they have the resources for schools. And everything these Republicans do are about ripping off and cutting, not paying their taxes and ripping off all our services. That has to be a counterattack on these Republican senators. You cannot get away with let these people say that the fabric. All the Republicans are doing are citing witless and worthless slogans, and they're being allowed to get away with it from these Democratic candidates. You cannot let this happen. And Reverend Warnock, you got to get your shirt mussed up. You got to get a little dirty. But listen, you're not saying anything that's not factual. And of course, every time the Republicans throw lies toward the Democratic Party, the Democrats don't step up and swap it away. So these lies, after a while, begin to stick. So it's important that every time the Republicans start throwing this nonsense around, there has to be a rebuttal and there has to be a counterattack. And of course, the other attack line, and it's when I just think about it, I just think the audacity of these senators. But they have no shame, they have no scruples, they don't no dignity, no class, no nothing. But they're blaming, or they're accusing the Democratic candidates of being beholden to the corporations. Now, I got to take a breath for a second and just let that soak in. And I'll tell you why they say this, and it's the Democrats' fault. Because the Democrats do not consistently hammer at the Republicans for every year giving a free ride to the millionaires, billionaires, and corporations in these tax cuts. The reason why we have economic collapse, because we have economic insecurity, because the Treasury is not filled. Remember when Clinton was there, when he left, you're coming close, it was over $1 trillion in the Federal Reserve, in the Federal Treasury, to take care of any kind of program that we have, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, schools, anything. We had money there. But the Bush administration came and cut all those rates, not to the middle class or working class, where the people who are going to spend money, not to those guys, but the millionaires, billionaires, and corporations. And of course, the Democrats don't use that as an attack, which, they're going to have to start doing it in order to take their message out to the Midwest and start trying to get some blue-collar workers, middle-class working Americans on their side from the Midwest. But in this election, you cannot let that label stick. For one thing, the Trump tax cuts went all to the millionaires, billionaires, corporations. Remember, the corporations were supposed to invest in jobs and that phony Reagan trickle-down economics. But of course, these corporations don't invest in jobs. They don't invest in research. What they did was they took all their tax cuts and gave it to their investors, gave it to their stockholders. So basically, they just stole from this country. The attack for the Democrats have got to be, listen, these corporations are telling these Republicans to fill up the Supreme Court with these corporate lawyers that make sure that the corporations are not liable. And what did Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, say that was going to be a primary factor in the next relief bill? Is that to get rid of the liability for all these companies and corporations that are going to hire people back during this pandemic. So basically, it's not even nobody's even thinking about the workers who are coming in here, making these corporations money, but nobody's thinking about their safety during a pandemic. The first priority for the Republican Party is to make sure that the corporations are safe from liability, safe from liable, so that they don't have to worry about making a safe place to work, a safe environment for their workers to come back. Second, of course, is their total regard for the corporations not paying their taxes. Every time, George W., Trump, Reagan, cutting corporate taxes to the lowest. Now, who are the people, or I should say, who are the things that wear down our infrastructure the most in this country? And those are corporations, roads, airports. They look for highly intellectual or smart workers to fill up or to create an environment in which your corporations can invest and become better. So that comes from schools, bridges, you name it. But of course, they pay no taxes in order to rebuild those infrastructures, to make sure that they fix those infrastructures, which is a total giveaway. You're here in this country to make your money. You're here to make your stock investors wealthy. You need to pay back this country and pay your dues to this country. And to do that, that comes in taxes. Okay, also, military, the judges and the court systems, of which make everything fair so that you can actually have a good business and you have laws that dictate that everybody plays on an even playing field. That's all done with tax money. They need to pay their taxes. So don't say that the Democrats are beholden to the corporations. The Republicans are these corporation stooges that are trying to make sure that the corporations get a free ride in this country over the well-being of the United States of America. And Senator Loeffler, classic, starts off her attack ads with, "Don't believe the liberal lies." And of course, they can get away with something like that. This is the labeling that the Democrats refuse to attack and to counterattack and to retort to. So that's basically how half of these challengers across the country failed and lost, because they would take being labeled the left wing, the liberal radicals, the liberal this, the liberal that. They took it lying down instead of telling their voters what the liberals are and the liberal label. So when Senator Loeffler lobs out, "Don't believe the liberal lies," this is how you counterattack that. First of all, if you want to go back, the liberals won World War II. The liberals built up this country after World War II, and the liberals even built up Europe so that there was, how many wars were in the 20th century before the liberals came around in World War II? There was probably 20 or 30. You know how many wars are in Europe after the liberals rebuilt Europe? 0. The liberals secured the banks so there was no Great Depressions. You know how many economic collapses and how many bank scandals there were between FDR and then Reagan started chipping away at those regulations? Nothing. 0. And of course, when Reagan came around, The banks started collapsing. The banks started having scandals. The banks started losing people's money. So those are what the liberals are. The liberals also gave you Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, of which the Republicans have been trying to get rid of ever since. The liberals want everybody to have health care. They want you to pay your money to have health care, but also real health care that you get coverage. The Republicans have been giving you nonsense, have been taking your money and giving you nothing back in return. And you can just talk about President Trump doing the same thing about his military charity and his fake university that he got up. That's what the liberals do. The liberals prepare this government for a pandemic in order to keep it out. Talk about Obama keeping Ebola out and talk about a playbook about how to stop this pandemic. That's what liberals do. So when you get attacked about these liberal lies, and by the way, liberals create jobs and create economics. Just look at the Clinton boom, where we had the greatest economy since World War II, and he got that because he made the millionaires, billionaires, and corporations pay their taxes to this country. So liberals also create jobs. And what liberal lies? All you have to do is look now and watch the conservatives abandon America. Conservatives, when they got that report that said Osama bin Laden was going to attack this country, they went on vacation. And guess what? We had one of the greatest terrorist attacks on this country. The liberals don't give away CIA operatives like the Republicans did when the CIA said that it was a lie that Nigeria gave Iraq materials to make weapons of mass destruction. And of course, the conservatives gave away a CIA operative as punishment. Liberals wouldn't do that. So we want to talk about liberals and conservatives. Just like they got the report that said Osama bin Laden was going to attack this country, they went on vacation. Just like they got a report that says the pandemic was going to invade the United States, they did nothing. And of course, now when this country's in dire straits, the people are on an economic cliff. What do? They go on vacation again. So that's the conservative way. This country's gone too far to the right. Because when it goes too far to the right, this country crumbles. A terrorist attack, pandemics attack, people lose jobs, people crumble underneath the ineptitude of the conservative movement in the Republican Party. So you want to talk about liberal lies. This country cannot afford, and this has to be a theme for these two Democrats running to get into the Senate, the country cannot afford any more Republican leadership. We can't take another economic hit. We cannot take banks crippling this economy. We cannot take terrorists attacking this country. We cannot take any more pandemics crippling this country. We cannot afford to have Republicans in charge anymore. When are the people going to figure this out? Every time you have Republicans in charge, this country falls to its knees. We get crippled. That's got to be the theme of this election down there in Georgia. And I appreciate the Reverend Warnock, and he's trying to be the good guy. But listen, you're fighting for people's livelihoods and lives. Lives are at stake here. And the conservatives don't care. Let's put that into the mix. The conservatives don't care whether you live or die. You have Fox propaganda saying they should go back to school. Only a couple thousand kids are going to die. That's all. Small percentage. I mean, are you kidding me? They also said, okay, let's get back out and get the economy going. We'll sacrifice your grandparents or your parents for the sake of the economy. I mean, who are these people? I mean, this is just complete trash. And the Democrats didn't even use that in this election. I mean, what for? Listen, I know there was plenty of propaganda, and half of the Trump voters believe that this election is a fraud and that this pandemic is nothing. And part of that reason is the Democrats do not attack back or retort back to these accusations by the Republican Party. You got to stop now. The Biden agenda relies on it, and the sake of the country relies on it. You have to get into a fight with these guys, and you're in the political battlefield. You got to go toe to toe with these guys. You have the facts. You have the truth on your side. Go get them and go and attack. That's the message before this great Thanksgiving weekend. I'm thankful for everybody listening, everybody befriending me. You have a couple of coins or dollars left over after Black Friday, please feel free to donate to the podcast so we can keep things going. Please visit our website at truedemocratsusa.com. You can read the blogs, catch up on the latest news cycle, buy True Democrats Picking Up America Again t-shirt for $25, free shipping. And we look forward to hearing your feedback. Send us some comments if you can. And again, have a great Thanksgiving. This is Adam Carr signing off. And until after the weekend, we will talk again soon. Have a good night.